I was asked a question a few days ago by a British expat living overseas, namely, should you keep investing through national insurance, in other words, paying national insurance contributions when you're an expat living overseas? Now I'm going to answer that question in this video based on my own personal opinion and also some rationality behind those opinions. Now, number one, it should be obvious that of course it does depend on your personal situation, but that should go without saying. If you're just 1 or 2 years away from retirement, you've paid in for years and years, and you're just 1 or 2 years away from the end of how many years you need to contribute, it's common sense you should keep contributing, because it's unlikely, even though COVID's made it slightly more likely, that the government would renege on their promises and just say, oh, next year you can't retire, now it's 10 years time. When it comes to such a short time frame, I think that's unlikely. What's much more likely, however, is that for people who are younger, especially in their 20s or 30s and 40s, but even people in their 50s, the government's going to renege on their promises because of the whole COVID situation, the aging population and so on. So in the last 2 elections, the so-called Waspi women, those women who thought they would have to retire at 60 but now have to retire at 67, of course many of those women are in their late 50s now, early 60s, and the government reneged on their promises relatively close to their retirement age, sometimes about 10 years. So the issue with this is, I think, is that it's unlikely, given all the trends we're seeing, which includes worsening public finances with COVID, it includes hardening attitudes to immigration, it includes an aging population which is going to get much older. I think it's unlikely that the government's not going to substantially increase the retirement age or decrease the benefits, maybe because of inflation or whatever. The only way I can see an alternative is if the government cut healthcare, for example, or cut in another way, or there's incredible new technology that might happen with the fourth industrial revolution, but because loads of robots can do more jobs, the aging population won't be such a big issue and we wouldn't need loads and loads of new immigrants to do those jobs. But the point is, whether you say it's a 60% risk, a 70% risk or a 90% risk, the chances that the government are going to keep increasing the retirement age are vastly higher than the opposite. And even in a best case scenario, I think the retirement age will stay stable or just increase a little bit, but probably it's going to go up a lot. So in that case, if you're an expat in your 20s or 30s, I think there's no reason to keep contributing into UK national insurance unless you definitely know you're going back to the UK. And even if you do, you can catch up with national insurance later on. So if you go back to the UK in your 50s and you're doing really well, you make good money overseas, if it makes sense at that point, often you can backdate some payments. But the point is, a private pension is much more flexible than the state pension, because the state pension is completely locked in until age 65, 67, or of course now it's going to be longer, as I said in this video. So actually, I think it often doesn't make sense to keep contributing into UK national insurance when you're overseas as an expat, unless your situation is very specific and you're much older. Okay, everyone, I've got some really exciting news today. So for a couple of years now, many people have asked me, well, look, I can't afford your minimum investments, but I really like your advice. I don't know if you can do this or you can do that, or you can help me in that way, or you can't help me in that way. I've always said, no, I can only do this or that, but I've got some really exciting news, and that's that in a couple of months before the end of the year, I will be bringing out what I'm calling the Adam File Academy, which will have many new areas which will be of interest to people. So things like mentoring, tutoring, all those kind of things that people have asked me for in the past. So stay tuned. I'm going to be announcing it in the next few months, but I thought I'd tell it to you guys before. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you're looking for in this academy. We're going to be focusing on many different areas, including how to invest productively, also some business areas, because that's another thing people have asked me about before. So stay tuned and I'll keep you up to date.